Welcome to the Nailed It Wall.
On this week's episode, we're going to take a look at social media. What is the buzz going around? The teacher lifestyle, the distance learning, how kids are coping at home. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 52 of the Nailed It Wall. I'm Mr. Lane, the STEM guy.
And I'm Mrs. Schofield.
Well, partner, we have survived 3 weeks of distance learning. We're still here. We're still smiling. We're having a good time. As we start every episode, how'd you nail it this week?
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was thinking, man, I didn't really, think that through. So let me try and think what I would want to say about that. I will say I caught up on our podcast this week. Both, we've been a little bit delayed on that, so that felt pretty good. But does it constitute a nailed it? Not really, but, we're a little busy. I feel that the Ridge kids, thanks to Deb Moore, she's wanting to do this bridge to ridge and, kind of make
Love
connections.
She talked about it earlier this summer, and now it's actually happening.
It is, and a lot of that is
catchy
her.
Too. Marketed. There must be a marketing guru behind this.
She, she's kind of spearheading it, but then also her kids are taking ownership and putting stuff together. And it was really, really cool on Friday. I'm super excited to see where this goes. And it will be every other Friday, and they're going to kind of lead these, mini lessons or something with the kids. It was more of a getting to know you this week. But it was really neat because there was a handful of kids from Ridge that ranged from seniors down to freshmen. We had 3 of our Vipers. They said former Vipers, which there's no such thing because, once a Viper, always a Viper. But we had Isabella Perry, one of our announcements crew, and Tegan Bernard, who is this amazing kiddo, Monsi. And I think those were the only ones that were our kiddos from previous years, but it was really cool. They just got in there, they took ownership.
They were former Moxie girls as well.
That's right, 2 former Moxie girls. And I loved the fact that they want to spend their time like this. And I think it was really interesting for them because it's different coming and being in a leadership role via Zoom, and you have to be thinking on your feet and kind of have a lot of energy to like bring in the kids, and especially kids when you don't know them. But one of my favorite parts about the presentation was they did their thing, but then each one of them individually said to the kids that their goal is for the kids to feel comfortable, and they want them to learn something, but they want them to know that they want to be their friend, like that they genuinely want to be their friend. And so they basically said, if you ever need someone to talk to, we're here. And it was very genuine, and I just think that's really cool for these kids to be making these connections in 8th grade with these older not classmates, whatever you would say, but yeah, I'm really excited about it. So, all I did was say yes. And so but it's going to be pretty cool. I'm pumped.
And these are all DECA students, correct?
No, so I thought they were DECA, but some of them, I think most of them are in DECA, but they're all in the marketing class.
Okay.
So that's the common thing. And this is part of their marketing project. There's like something that they're putting together, and they have a whole agenda, and they've brainstormed, and then they took advice from me and kind of modified on the fly because, that's teaching right there. And I'm so proud of them. And Deb checked in, over the weekend, was like, how did it go? But she didn't go to it. She just let them do their thing. It was like the spaghetti dinner reference thing all over again. And she just knew that they would be fine. They were fine. And it was awesome to have them. So I'm super excited about that.
I think the biggest thing is you kind of step back and kind of let them work it out. Talk about some of the kinks in their first little game here.
Well, first of all, they're, and I remember this a lot more in my first year of teaching, where something is very clear to me and I think, oh, this is going to make so much sense. And then you roll it out, and then it's like, off the rails. And they did this never have I ever game. But when you say never have I ever, that's implying that they have not done that. And so there would be things that they would say, and then they would want the kids to put their thumbs up or whatever if they had done it. So there was some confusion about that. And not only that, but in the Zoom world, one of the biggest things for teaching eighth grade is kids talking. Like that's something teachers have to constantly kind of, set expectations, keep coming around. And I like conversations, but there's usually a lot of little side conversations with eighth graders. So it's just a constant challenge that you have. Not in Zoom meetings. It's like crickets. So it's a totally different vibe. So you have to be super creative with how you engage kids to jump in because they're all muted. And so it doesn't have that natural organic, thing where kids might jump in. So they kind of would ask a question and the kids would all be staring at the screen. And so, of course, then I just was like, we're just going to call on people. And the kids are getting really used to the fact that I'm just going to call on them and they're getting desensitized to that. But that was really interesting because I think they all thought like kids are going to jump in, and they don't, and they won't most likely, no matter what class it was. And it's not because they're not engaged. It's just a different environment. So you have to pivot and modify and then, go in a different direction. So
I love it. And so much of like what you do with Zoom is engaging these kids, and these kids are in eighth grade. And when it's their birthday, you go in the cafeteria and you have the entire cafeteria sing to this kid. Now, are you continuing this trend as well?
Yes. First of all, what I typically do at the beginning of the year is I go in the kids fill out a survey, and at the beginning of the year they fill out the survey, and one of the things I ask them to put is their birthday. And most kids, almost all of eighth grade, does it. But there'll usually be a couple kids that just think, if I don't put it down, Mrs. Schofield's not going to celebrate me. They're so wrong. I just go in and I find that. But this year, I have to find all of the birthdays because, I didn't do the typical things with the survey at the beginning of the year. So I've been relying on Power Schools to give me the little birthday candle icon when I do attendance. And so far, I think I've done pretty well with birthdays, and we just sing in a Zoom. So it's usually me and one other brave kid that will sing. But I'll tell you what, memorable. It's definitely memorable because it's a very interesting vibe in there. But yes, because I don't care. Like, you have to be celebrated. People just need to be celebrated.
You love birthdays.
I love birthdays. I love them. And I just, especially for eighth graders, especially right now, kids are under the radar. They don't see people, birthdays just aren't the same, right? We know because we've, how many birthday drive-bys did you do, since COVID started? So many. And, I had a birthday during COVID. Like, it's just a different vibe. And so you have to find the ways to make these kids feel special, celebrated, seen, and valued. And even though it's like not amazing for them, sometimes they get embarrassed, they also love it. So we just go with it.
I love it. You're building this culture. You're keeping everything going. You haven't changed at all. I mean, the sketch note and the interactive notebooks, singing on Zoom, getting people into it, making their birthdays memorable. I think that is so awesome.
I miss the megaphone though, because Brady Plessity, he would lead the birthdays in the cafeteria.
He was like your birthday DJ.
He was my birthday DJ, and without Plessity on the megaphone, it has a different vibe. I think the kids wouldn't love me on a megaphone in Zoom, but I might have to try it one day just to see.
I'm sure Ella would love that. Well, you're in the classroom, so that she wouldn't experience that.
Yeah.
Well, my nailed it is it's been so fun. I've been doing Mythbusters with the littles, building boats with my 5th and 6th graders, and it's been so fun kind of seeing those videos trickle in and the kids actually doing videos, sinking their boats, being shocked by how many pennies they could get on their boats, and I just really love that. And we're on Zoom so much, and then all these assignments had to be video assignments. Some of these kids are sending me 3-minute videos. And so you just went through all these first grade flip grid videos that I just did with all these kids, adorable. And so I told the first graders, because I've never met these first graders, I'm like, I need to get to know you. I need to know what makes you you, what's interesting. And some of these videos were just so adorable. Like they were putting glasses on them. So I'm like, oh, what a cool video. We're going into video editing first week, and it just warmed my heart watching all these videos to start my day. And some of them had glasses on. Some of them were telling me what STEM is. So it was just so cool to see what you can do with Flipgrid there. And then the kids are going through trying to bust this myth. Can you fold a piece of paper more than 7 times? They're building a boat out of paper. One student didn't have any pennies. We're in a coin shortage here. It's a hard knock life right now. And he was doing the ratio of weights of a quarter to a penny and breaking this all down, and just so higher level. But it was just so fun to see so many videos of kids thinking and created in their own home, which, would be in our own classroom, in our own space. And, just like warmed my heart. But then I think my highlight was like an email I got from this student. This is Mrs. Roscoe's son. It just made me so happy. I read it to you yesterday. It says, "I failed on making the paper boat, so I kept trying." And he put the hashtag fail forward. And that's like my hashtag, I don't know, somewhere in my classroom, or I talk about it somewhere a lot. Yeah. I'm always like, fail forward. That's what we do. And, it's just been my whole MO as a teacher in this classroom, the makerspace, and encouraging those kids and celebrating failure. And like all those videos, just the fact that he sent that email and just like was just so upbeat and positive about it and just put the hashtag fail forward. It just warmed my heart. I'm like, this is what I need to say. This is going to inspire me to do our next project and have so much fun in this ways. And like I told you, I'm like, I don't know what's next. And you're like, you're going to figure it out and it's going to be awesome. And I'm like, you're right. It is. I'm pumped up for it. And so just, you're in a Zoom, you're brought in there, but when they're doing and they're making, like you showed me a Rube Goldberg video by one of your students. It was just like so cool, like to see all those transitions. Like you're in their space and they're creating, and like that's what you want, like when they're in your space. And just some of those things it's just so exciting. And as an educator via Zoom, you're like, we got this, we're doing this. And yep. It's just so much fun and seeing that. And but then on the flip side of that, you're getting so many emails being like, the video won't save. Sometimes you just got to wait a second, and you're taking them at their word that they did this, they built it. But it's also that frustrating side of, a quick video. I'm like, just be patient, just wait, don't close it out. It will show up there. And teaching all those little things of, submitting a video and kind of losing that. But overall, just an amazing week. Just so fun getting back to like the things we love. And, you're doing a Rube Goldberg with your STEM kiddos. But then the fun part was my 7th and 8th graders are working on building apps. And
so cool.
There's a lesson in there where they have to build a tinfoil boat and get pennies on there. But I didn't give them any videos. I didn't give them any instructions. I just gave them the paper handout. I'm like, I want you to build the boat this way. And for those 15 minutes, like, it was not me teaching. It was just them kind of going at it. And I'm like, oh, we got a boat over here. I'm like, come on, gentlemen. We have 4 ladies that have built the boat. Then all of a sudden, it was like, boom, 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 boom. Got the boat there. And I'm like, you're hired. You're hired. So I was like, I basically told them, I'm like, you got 15 minutes to nail this job application. And then you're going to be hired as a lead engineer at Apple. Otherwise, good luck to your startup out there in the cold world of Silicon Valley. And
I love that.
It was just so fun to, because it's hard. It's like I'm throwing so much stuff at those kids, and I'm like, all right, and here's where we put our code. Here's how you flip this text code. Boom, boom, boom. I'm like, all right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And I'm like, complete this lesson. So it's hard to slow down and be like, man, I just threw a lot at you guys in 15 minutes, and they're like, what is going on? So it's hard to find that balance. And like you even said in like your time when you're taking attendance, like you're on that and doing this. So, I mean, so much good. There
is so much good, but I think that's the hard thing. And, we were so inspired by that, most likely to succeed, right? Both of us took so much away from that. And early on in Twitter, when COVID, started shutting everything down, there was so much talk about how this is the time to change how education is. It's our chance to shake things up and do things different. And I'm pretty interactive. I mean, your class is completely interactive. You're able to do that. It's the nature of your STEM class. But for mine, I really have to battle against teaching at them, and I want them to have all these self-discoveries. But I'm trying to find ways of, number one, I have 25 minutes with them, which is really, really short. However, I don't want, the high school situation is tough because that's 2 hours, and 2 hours of a lot of times the kids processing stuff from the teacher, and I get where they're coming from. They have a limited time, and then outside of class and responsible for more work. And so finding that balance, but being effective, like how do you bring those things to life. So in your Zoom, you're having them like a community all doing something together. And so I need to find a way to do that more and more in my science class. But everybody has different resources and access to things, and there's a lot. I mean, internet stuff. I mean, how much do you deal with internet stuff, with laggy or kids having trouble they couldn't get on because or they get booted out, and it's so frustrating. Passwords and all of it, and you realize it doesn't just look one way. It's all these different experiences from different kids. You have a house full of kids all using the same Wi-Fi. That's really tough, and different speeds. And I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and she was saying that her provider, and I want to say it's, I don't know, whatever, CenturyLink maybe, that only goes up to a certain speed. And so she said, her kid has trouble a lot of times. He gets booted off, or there's things where he'll go to submit and it crashes, and so you forget that there's all these challenges that we're not even thinking about. And I think those are the biggest things for us as educators, is like kind of being responsive to that and try and figure out a way that you can still do our big picture that we're trying to do.
And I think that's the hard thing as well when you talk about kids sending us emails, be like, I couldn't get on because of my Wi-Fi, and they're trying to do everything there, and that breaks your heart as well when a parent sends an email like they're so excited for STEM and they couldn't get in, they're so bummed, and another parent's like, I'm trying to get both the girls in and we're trying, and those are technical things that we can't fix on that side. And me and you are just trying to troubleshoot of playing videos via Zoom, and how frustrating it is for us to watch a laggy video that's a second behind. And we came up with a theory today of putting it on our Canvas shell, and then be like 3, 2, 1, hit play here, and trying to work out all these kinks. And then parents are like, can you take the password off? And so those are the hard things. But like, you see these parents and kids, they're investing their time. They want to be there, and we're trying to do all those things to right that ship, in a sense, to make sure everything is as smooth as possible.
Well, and then you talked about my Rube Goldberg thing, and I put a lot of effort into that class. So for me, I teach my core subject, my science, my 4 classes of science, but then in addition I have an exploratory class, and that's my STEM class. And how much we love that class, but it's so much of it is hands-on, so having to adjust it. And I gave them an interest form, and a lot of kids said they wanted to do Rube Goldberg, which is why I ended up doing that. And I made this whole thing and put in all these cool videos. You gave me some great suggestions, and then gave them some pretty appropriate leveled challenges. And I couldn't understand why kids weren't turning them in. And I just thought, like, kids asked for this. Like, I know that they'd be good at it, and it's fun. And then Thursday, I finally started getting things from kids saying, I've been trying all week, but that it's not, like, part of it is published, like the name is published, but nothing's there. Like, when are you assigning that? I'm like, oh my gosh. So I guess in Canvas, there's like these 2 different places and this different way that you publish things. So I'm like, there's so much I don't know about Canvas, and so much I don't know about, I was telling you, our friend MJ was having trouble with her Zoom account, and she's a speech path, and she's having this technical issue where
totes a breathing.
Yeah, totes a breathing. And she's having this problem where she sends out a link, and when the kids click on it, it says the meeting's already been ended. So it's all of these things. Like, I think at this point, the vibe is we all are trying so hard to embrace technology. We're all trying to embrace what's been given to us. And it's really, really tough when you have glitches on Canvas, when you have glitches on Zoom, and all of these things with, like, sharing documents. That's been like the bane of my existence this past week. And and then even the grade book syncing, like, well, it was last week, and I think I was still working on trying to push out having those link up. But we're learning a ton. There's still kinks though, and it is tough. It's really tough to fail so publicly with your kids, because I'm having not the same problem over and over, but like a different version. And so I'm looking forward to when it's all kind of like smoother sailing. And then, then something else will pop up and that's fine. But it's just, I think that's what the vibe is. Like, don't you kind of feel like that's what it is with teachers? We're good. We accept now that we're on Canvas. We accept that we're going to do these things. It's just, it would be great if there was just, everything would just kind of fall into place with that. But, it makes us stronger.
And when I think about that, you talked about sharing documents and pushing things out. You're like, I could have sworn I did it this way,
Yeah.
but I'm only getting this one class back, and now I have to make a video to kind of go back. And I think that's a hard thing too. It's just we're just always tied to our computer, and you're like, oh, if I'm getting messages, I gotta send this out, and I gotta make a video. They have to watch this video, how to do this. And I'm like, you saw me yesterday. I was just going back and forth, being like, all right, I need you to share this with me. You got to turn this into a GIF. Like once I do that, I'll update your grade. And the kids are trying. They're working so hard. And
no complaints from them.
I had one student create a GIF. I'm like, how long did it take you to do this? He's like, 5 hours. I'm like, it's amazing.
They're putting that time in.
Yeah,
and they don't even have to, but they want to.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It just blown me away. And you're trying to find that balance of not overwhelming them, and some students take it to a whole new level and they want to push themselves and they want to really understand this and create these things, which is the absolute best, and that's what you love. And it just it blows you away, like what these kids are willing to do in terms of those little extra steps.
Well, and I think it's the same thing you would see if we were in the classroom, right? There's going to be an assignment that you give, and you're going to have the kids that are going to do what you ask. And then there's going to be these kids that you see that they just needed something like this, and they just take it. And it could even just be a quirky day for them, right? And they just decide for some reason that clicks. I'm cracking up, though, that I kept thinking I was doing so good with these sharing the files properly, and I told you I was still having trouble, and I was saying, yeah, and I'm downloading it as a PowerPoint and sharing it, and you're like, they can't access this on Chromebooks. And so so many things I don't know.
I thought you were messing with me at first. I was like PowerPoint on a Chromebook?
Yeah. There's so many things I don't know that I don't know until all of a sudden, it's a learning thing.
Don't
I know.
Talk to me about PowerPoint. That's diddly poo.
Well, I thought for sure that anyway. So it's been, that part of it is a little bit challenging.
For years, I've told you, I'm like, get away from PowerPoint.
I don't use it, but I had to take my Google Slides.
Your first year,
and
you were big into PowerPoint.
Yeah, I was, and then I went away. I mean, we teach Google or taught Google, and so it's been interesting. But I have to say, what you're like. The YouTube tutorials that the kids made, those were awesome. And the Rube Goldberg things that are coming in. And, I shout out to the Romano boys, but Gavin is so creative and he was all excited. When I said I opened it up and I extended it instead of just moving on from that assignment, he was so excited to see what he can come up with. And I just feel like that's the vibe that we keep hitting on, is they want to do stuff. And so now I have this big cell analogy project, and that is so tough to roll out a big project virtually. It is really tough. I did it with the rockets, but rockets is a little different. But a cell analogy, if you can't be in person and give a whole lesson on analogies and have kids have that conversation, I do a lot of discussion in class. And so I'm trying to shove all of that into essentially a 20-minute period of time. And then I send them off and then hope that they do that. I don't know. I don't feel good about that. But how many days can you break that? That's the whole thing, is what's the balance? How much can you sit and, talk at them and kind of break it down? And at what point do you just kind of let them fly? I don't know. I'm still trying to work that out.
I think the hard thing with what you're trying to do with that too is mastery, or I don't know.
I think
flubbing that word.
No, you're not. I think it's good.
Mastery. I don't know. Of understanding what those organelles are. So
yes.
It's still you're teaching a difficult concept. It's life, It's all these things within a cell, It's
yes.
what does a cell lead up to? What are these different levels? So you're trying to take all of these different organelles and have them understand that, and then now take it to a higher level
yes.
and compare that to something in the real world. And I loved your conversations. Like, what are you into? Like, what are you interested
Yeah.
in? And how can we kind of compare that? So, and you're talking about in that time crunch and, kind of letting them fly. And so that's a lot,
It
it's tough to
is.
do. It's tough to do when you have them for a 60-minute period, 5 days a week.
But I can work with them. That's the thing is in my class when I roll that out, I kind of just briefly touch on it. I give them a brief thing. We practice whole group like a concept. We use like the school as an example. And then I'm there and I go kid to kid and we brainstorm and we talk about their interests and we talk about what other kids at their table are doing. So there's all this conversation. But like I said, you get into a Zoom and the vibe in your Zooms tends to be your mics are all muted. And that is really because it is difficult. Like if I had all my kids turn on their mics, it's not that I'm worried about control or their behavior. I know that they could handle it. It's not effective. Like you can't communicate like that because, it's like sometimes even when you have a conversation on a cell phone, sometimes there's just that little lag and you're talking over each other. And so they're missing a huge, huge component of that. And so then I was thinking I brought in examples today that I might put up and do like a little video, but you're always hesitant because you were doing something. Oh, I think it was your gifts and you gave them an example, but you were saying then a lot of them are going to use that. They get tied to that and you don't want to like handcuff their imagination. And so you want to inspire, but you want to like spark, you want to ignite. You don't want to like give them a mold. And so it's like fine, but you also want to help them. So it's like kind of, what's the balance in a virtual setting? How do you teach the same way and give them that higher level where they kind of are coming to their own realizations about things, but you also don't want them to sink, So I don't really know what that looks like. I'm going to figure it out, but I don't know. I'm really trying to struggle with that, in a good way.
That's something I always struggle with. I did a Mario Brothers one, and I'm like, oh, look at all these Mario Brothers recreations. Some of them are super creative, so I can't knock them there. But it's finding that fine balance of, what is too much and what's too little, and
Yeah.
you don't want them to sink their own ship without, that modeling on your side. We love Twitter.
We do.
Twitter's
We
our
do
jam.
love Twitter.
Facebook, we're not really. We're both on Facebook, but we're not on Facebook a lot, and
No.
it's a hard time. I think since the summer started, so much of like what we love to do is grow and learn, and there's been so many great PD opportunities for teachers via Twitter this summer and Facebook, I assume as well. But I feel so much of this summer on Twitter was the anxiety of like what is going to happen as we get closer to our dates. And this week, I know more and more schools are starting to open nationwide as we get gearing up closer to Labor Day. I know a lot of schools, even East Coast, are starting to open before Labor Days, and so much of that has been pushed back. But so much of the anxiety on Twitter has just been more from a teacher side. We use it as teachers. We love to share what we do as teachers, but so much of the anxiety is I'm not ready to go back. Me and my family are taking more life insurance out, preparing for, the worst case scenario. How do we do this for students? And so much of Twitter is just about sharing creations and the teacher community, the PLC, and taking so much away. And I feel like it's been a hard place to read things on Twitter. Just so much anxiety and angst and this back and forth. And we talked about like when we first went into this, teachers should be paid $1 billion, and slowly it kind of shifted away from that, and now it's you should risk your life because of this. And I feel it's hard to see this shift in terms of perceptions of teachers, and parents want kids to go back to school, parents don't want kids to go back to school. And then there was a school district in Arizona, I think it was like J.O. Combs. They were set to open on Monday, and then 120 teachers like called out, and they continued to call out, in fear of their safety or precautions weren't being met. And then all of a sudden they had to flip-flop, and so there's this back and forth of what's right, what's not right, outbreaks. And so it's been the social media side is just it's it's taken a toll, like,
It
and so
is.
much we love
Yeah.
to get on Twitter, and me and you were like, I can't go on there, I got to get off it. And but then, like, I mean, and then you talk to parents, friends of ours, and they're like, Facebook is just awful,
Oh my
like
gosh.
it's just a hard time for social media in terms of, what's best for our kids moving forward.
Well, I think the really hard thing about it is there's so much tension. There fear always brings out bad things, right? And people are afraid. Teachers are afraid to go back. Parents are afraid to have their kids go back. Parents are afraid of losing jobs because their kids aren't going back. There's a ton of fear. You have the fear of the actual virus. And so that definitely is a hotbed
And then
there.
flu season's on
Yeah, right on the
right around the
horizon.
corner.
Yeah, it's just right there. And so there's a lot of fear, but I think it is the hardest thing that you and I have talked about is just the amount of frustration and anger directed specifically at teachers has been tough because as we share on the pod all the time, this is an adjustment for us. Like, number one, we've never done this before. There's no real clear guidelines of how it should look. We're learning on the fly as far as how to adapt. There's a plan, but all best laid plans, it's not exactly, it's like how I was saying, like, you imagine it's going to be one way and then you get in and then you have to modify, and that's just teaching already. But I don't understand how it's shifted to have us be the recipients of so much frustration and anger. And I think it's important for everyone to remember at all levels that teachers want to be teaching. Do they all want to be teaching in the classroom right now? Maybe not, but that could be for a lot of different reasons. There's teachers that have family members that are, at a compromised risk, or maybe themselves, or there's just a lot of different things happening. But I know that the teachers desperately want to be teaching, and we're doing the best that we can. And I think that people have a really good attitude. I feel like things shifted on Twitter before, like, you can see who's gone back and you see a transformation. I think a lot of them are kind of doing okay. That's the vibe I get. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, but it was at first, the frustration, the fear, and the anger of having to go back and, like, kind of being flip flopped all over the place. Like, we're hybrid, we're in person, now we're all online. Okay, so that's fine. Then we adjust. But I feel like people are kind of happy. Now there's the next wave of schools that are going to be opening, and there's that fear for them. But I have seen people coming out sharing a lot of resources again and trying to, there's a lot of positive quotes, right? A lot of quotes about, like, your attitude and staying positive and being flexible and all of that. I think it's just the negative thing and that's social media, right? It's the double-edged sword with that. But how many Twitter people have you seen where they'll just call out stuff? Like, when did Twitter become this attacking ground, and they'll just address that.
Yeah, and I think that's a sad thing too, where, like, everyone loves the hashtag crazy PLC, or, my PLN, my professional learning network. And then all of a sudden, like, once this has happened, it's just people worried about their brand and, getting in trouble, and a lot of this teacher on teacher, like,
Yeah.
crime, like, coming out. And, we are the teachers, like, we need to be modeling this. And what's your famous line for your digital citizenship?
Oh, wait.
No, the doo-doo.
I can't take credit. Where did we saw that somewhere? I think it was in our Google trading. But it was like that when you step in dog poop, it follows you wherever you go, And I think it's so true, but there's so much stuff going on there. And I think it's just because it's typically the people, at least that we follow on Twitter, they're very like-minded as far as we're all educators and we all want what's best for kids. And I don't think that's changed. I think that now, if people have different opinions about if that should be in person or not in person and what districts should be doing, like, people will share opinions, and that's not as that's not a one size fits all. And so it ignites all of these crazy moments. Like people are like, well, I stopped following this person or I blocked. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, kumbaya, can't we all
The back and forth, and me and you are just like we love it because of the positivity, and this is what we try to bring out in the world. We're like, look what the students are doing here, look what they created, like positive, 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 and we understand the doo-doo reference. And so many of these teachers are just just shouting off at the mouth at each other, coming
Yeah.
at each other. Parents are involved. Like it's a sad. It's becoming a sad kind of back and forth, and we all want normalcy.
We all
Teachers
do.
are working harder and longer hours than they ever have, and students are. And we just talked about so many great stories of students of how hard they're working at their homes and limited resources, spotty Wi-Fi, apologetic, sending messages
Yeah.
like, I couldn't get in, I'm so sorry. So we all want normalcy. We don't know when that normalcy will be. I know in Deer Valley's last board meeting, they talked about a potential rollout of different grade levels coming back. That might not happen until October 14th. That's our date, and who knows? Could
Who
be
knows?
earlier, could be later. But you're kind of seeing these other things. I know in the Kyrene School District, 9 kids, they've been open a week. 9 kids are, quarantined for COVID. And then you think of all this contact tracing. So it's a lot. It's a lot to process.
It is.
And even this summer, it was hard for us. Like there was so much anxiety for me and you, not knowing, are we going back? Is it going to be a hybrid model?
How do you
Is it going to
plan?
be online? Yeah. How do
Yeah.
you plan? Like, what are we preparing ourselves for? But the social media side is hard. I think we're both being smart, staying off Facebook, because that's where a lot of the parent interaction is. And, we're not blaming. This is just in general in
Yeah.
terms of the nation at large.
Well, I will say specifically our school community, what I have seen that has been really nice is there are parents and kids, but I'm specifically talking to the parents right now, that have gone out of their way to highlight and celebrate the good. And more than ever right now, I think that we need so much more of that, because those things, think about that as, for us as educators, every time we get an encouraging text or email or feedback in that way, or somebody puts something positive on social media, it means so much to us, because, both of us are parents of kids in Deer Valley schools. We're struggling along with everybody else. We can identify. We definitely are not flippant about the challenges of this by any means. And so, it is so helpful when people take the time to do that, just to say something like, share the good, like what's good. There are a lot of things that are tough. There's a lot of things that are tough. There's not ideal for us. You're dealing with a lot of crazy. You're, teaching from home, and you're, parenting from home as your kids are doing their home learning, and that's all on you. And it's a lot to process. But there's still all these really positive things that are coming out of it. And you're seeing, you see your kids get in there, and look how monitored they do all of these things on their own, where they just get in and they know. Like I was watching Ryan log in the other day, and he was like, oh, you go here, 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 and then this is where I go. And I was like, he's second grade, and he's only been doing that really on his own, since the start of this school year. And that is amazing. So there's so many things to celebrate, and there's so much good to focus on. And I hope that Twitter finds its footing again, where we can get back to just saying, yeah, this is not great, and there's so much unknown, but like, what can we share? What's working for you? Like for all the stuff that you're talking about, just when I watch you do your live lessons, I was telling you, listening to those little first graders, oh my gosh, they're so cute. Maybe you could, I don't know, privacy, but seeing those, then it inspired me, like, oh, I could have my 8th graders do their lesson. That it's one of my favorite lessons about Rosalind Franklin, but it's one of those ones that it's super impactful, but I want it to be at that level. So then something I saw in your video has kind of inspired me to do something with them in a different way. And so, like, share.
And that was the news report.
The
Tell
news
us what it
Oh,
is.
well, I didn't want to spoil it. So it's like, some of your kids did like a Filtron Flipgrid, and it was like breaking news. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's what they could do. That they could do it as a news report. And I think that that's a good fit for some kids. It's not for all of them, but I like to give options when they do their projects. But just being inspired, saying, okay, how can we make the best of it? Not to get through it. I don't want to get through online learning. I actually am liking a lot of stuff about it. And I want to use this opportunity to teach in a totally different way. And I don't want it to be wasted. I want it to be fun. My eighth graders only get one eighth grade year and then they go off to high school. And a lot of the high schoolers, that were coming up, or coming back, they were like, eighth grade is really fun. This is a fun year. It's your last time to kind of have that. You're a senior at the high school, but you don't know everybody. You don't have that same, you haven't been with those same teachers and all of that. It's just a different vibe. So a K-8 school, being an eighth grader, you want that to be a really memorable year for them. And so that's my goal. Not just get through online learning, but how can we make it super, super fun? And then when we're in person, then it'll be totally different. And, we'll teach in a different way. And I don't think I'll teach the same way as I used to teach before. Number one, I can't even high five them. So, I'll have to find my new way. But it will inspire me to be a better teacher going forward, period.
I agree. And this morning, the Nelsons came by, and we have not seen them in 6 months. We had a social distancing donut party in the driveway,
So
which was super hot. Lindsay is a counselor at Sandra Day O'Connor, and her husband, Mr. Nelson, who kind of looks like me. He's we call each other our brothers, And he's an assistant principal in a Title I district, and he talked about the struggles of the Wi-Fi and connections, and get into that one-to-one and how much is going on. But then we still try to focus on the positive. They have a fifth grader and second grader here at Sierra Verde. And, just that human interactions is so nice. You read all this stuff and, I'm sharing a tweet with you. I'm like, oh, did you read this? Did you see this? And, me and you kind of go back and forth there. And there's some amazing AZ Central reporters that are doing a great job covering board districts, decisions, and school openings and what's going on. But that human side, we haven't seen them in 6 months. They brought Donutsville over this morning. The kids were excited. Everyone was saying, "Well, it's hot. It's humid in Arizona. It's like a death sentence."
It doesn't know it's Arizona.
Exactly. And she just gave so many props to the fifth grade team and Mrs. Copenhaver, hooty hoo, 2-time guest on the Nailed It wall, about her jokes and how engaging she is via the computer and how organized that fifth grade team is and what they're delivering, and then the second grade lifestyle. And so it's just so fun to have that personal connection and as friends and parents, and celebrate the good, all of the good. And so you can get bogged down with the pressures, and no one's discounting, the safety of children or the safety of your own lives. And, it's a scary thing, teachers' incomes are as tight as they come, and where they're shelling out now and be like, I need more life insurance to protect me and my family. And then you have parents coming at them, and like you said, that whole sick out in the J.O. Combs district, I believe, that creates that divide. It's like a teachers versus parents kind of conundrum that, how do we move forward? Then there's also this initiative that got taken off the Arizona ballot to support education. Then it came back. It's just every day is like you just don't know what's next, and it's like where's the win here? But then you need that parent support to support that initiative on the ballot come November. So it just doesn't end. Well,
in our school, and I'm sure other schools are, maybe they have it, but I can only speak to ours. We're a family, it's a family here at SV, and we have a community feel to it. And so we're trying to retain that and still grow that and make parents feel supported, seen, valued, and we care about how they feel. We care about the kids. We care about their social, emotional. We are a united front on this, and teachers are fighting that struggle alongside everybody. we want to be there for everybody. And we have we say it all the time, but we have amazing admin, and they make us feel very supported. And so it's just trying to keep, like, let's keep everyone in the same, on the same ship, and like we all have a common goal, which is, we're going to make this the best of a situation that's not ideal, and but still respect that there's a lot of components to it. It's not just one way, but that there's no enemies. It's all, it's all positive. People are trying, like, look at that first grade team, like their what was it, Meet the Teacher, like even just their video. Did you watch theirs? It was like a Brady Bunch thing, and just bringing the fun, bringing the creativity, and making kids excited about school. And parents, they need to laugh. Like, I love that Lindsay gave Jolynn a shout out for that, and that's making an impact. But it's all about how you approach it. It's what you bring to this. And I feel like there's so many good things. I'm seeing it all the time. I'm seeing it all the time.
I think that's a great thing at our staff meeting, where a simple email or a text message a teacher received from a parent or friend, how much that made them, teachers going to need to be pushed, and as admin, it is hard to push those teachers when you're not there physically on the same campus. Mm-hmm. And so much of that good was just shared of emails that people have received, and all these like funny stories, and how much that has meant to our teachers to kind of push them and keep going. We're going into week 4. It's kind of crazy to think that we are in week 4. I mean, basically we feel like it's just Groundhog Day every single day. We want to get back to Twitter, where it was just such a great social media in terms of celebrating all the good things that teachers are doing, kids are doing, how we can push them, how can you grab that and bring that into your classroom. And I'm missing that creation piece. I'm missing that positivity. And so it's hard for me to go on there and be on there for an extended amount of time. I do love the quotes, but I miss seeing the students in the classrooms, mm-hmm. the students create. And that's so much of like what my Twitter is like, oh, boom, 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 video, pictures, making this, created this. And so that's hard. And, and then even you're talking about, one of our favorite documentaries at the beginning,
Most Likely to
Succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I drew a blank there. Thank you. And yesterday, Sir Ken Robinson passed away. Like one of the greatest TED Talks, and inspires so much of like what me and you have done over the mm-hmm. years in terms of, do schools kill creativity? And here we are doing cell analogies, doing the covers, building paper boats, mm-hmm. challenging these things, and so much of what pushes us forward are thinkers like that. And like without Twitter, Facebook, websites, that social media side, that's what inspires you and takes so much away from somebody's message or story via those social media outlets.
Yeah, well, we didn't talk about this, but as you're saying all that, it makes me think that, the two of us should be committed, this week and going forward to, because we were saying, typically we are so good about like taking pictures and videos and share. And I was saying to you, when I make my digital newsletter every week, I'm like, I don't even have any pictures. What am I going to keep putting up Zoom things? But there are good things happening. Like there's all kinds of good things. And I think it would be a good challenge for us to just find ways to be creative, to share stories, to share the messages, share the things that are working, because I am so used to, it's almost, I don't want to say I was lazy before, because we would post all the time, but it's easy. You don't have to be as creative when you have this zinger of a video or a picture or whatever. But it's important to still get those messages out. That's why I loved your Padlet idea about like with, putting all the GIFs on that. And there's ways, like you were like, put your sketch notes up, which I have to tell you, I did not do, but I'm going to, because teachers need to start seeing things that are working, things that they might be able to modify and use. And I think we're just trying to get through. And even when something is really successful, if we don't always realize that it still can work as something that we can share, we just have to be creative in how we do it. And so really trying to shift that and make that a priority again, because we can't change olive Twitter feed, right? But we can add our part, and then maybe it will inspire other people to do that, because I do miss it. But you got something from, it was like John Meehan, the adrenaline rush thing.
Yeah.
And like, that was something he had shared, and he is great about continuing to share stuff. And
He's like, take it and run with it. And
yeah.
then those are the things that you need. And he created this awesome like Netflix. And I was like, I want to know, what is your Netflix like go to? And it was just like so cool, like what the kids kind of came up with. I'm like, all right, what's your main show? Tell me why. And then what are your follow-up shows?
I loved that. And he's a cool guy, because when you give him like, he always will have a conversation with you on Twitter about that, and he's really excited when he's inspired.
Adrenaline Rush, check him out.
He
follow
really
him.
You should definitely follow him and get his book. He's just
sharing.
He is such a sharer,
share machine,
and
positivity.
And I've used some of the stuff, and now you have as well, and it's spectacular. I mean, it's really, really great. And so I want us to be even more like that. I mean, yes, our podcast is, that's something we're really good about, sharing ideas and stuff. But I have been pretty, I don't want to say complacent, but I've allowed myself to be off the hook in that department. But I feel like if I want other people to share, then I need to be better about doing that myself. So.
Well said, partner. Well said. I love that, and I can't wait. And I know you're going to do a great job sharing your cell analogies that these kids are going to come up. So it'd be so cool to get that on Twitter and share those. And, but it's also hard, too. It's like you got to step away from the computer sometimes, too. And so much of what we could do would be like pictures on the iPad and tweet it out. And now it's like you got to save it to your desktop and then upload it and go from there. So, but then you also have to find that balance of being able to step away and get off your computer, and so much of today is going to be consumed of watching videos, and then tomorrow it's back in the grind, it's leading Zooms, and so it's a grind, and and when you get that break to kind of finally sit down, take a deep breath, and you go on your Facebook, you go on Twitter, you receive texts from friends and parents, it's hard to I don't know, take all that negativity and still focus on all the good that's out there.
There's so much good. And, I think it's just that we have to be super intentional at this point to choose to focus on that, and to be part of that movement of just staying positive. And then, we've talked before, teachers, each one of us is going to go through those little dips. And so to just continue to pick people up and inspire, and, they're going to need to be picked up again. And then sometimes it's your turn. And so kind of just being that community through this, because this is crazy times. Like, this is
might be the understatement of the century.
Yes. And, and it's been so long. Like, it's been so long.
So long.
So long. And, it's like, I think the craziest part is we don't even know, we don't see that finish line. So in those scenarios where we can't see, how much longer we're going to have to be in this, we just really need to band together and just say, like, we're going to get through this, but like, we really need to be a united front. Parents, teachers, kids, admin, district, everyone. Like, we need to all be there for each other, and like, try and make the best out of what we've been thrown into.
Yeah. And when I think about that, you also think of, the differences between school districts. I mean, there's no CDC state mandate. There's nothing coming from the governor that all schools are going to conform to this. Lindsay was like, I think we'll be back October 14th, if not January, She's like, I don't want to go back too soon,
Yeah.
Not to call you out on the theory. Hopefully she's not listening. So her theory was, I don't want to go back and then have to shut down again and put those kids at risk. And Mr. Nelson was talking about, once we get between the CDC's 3 things, we plan on coming back to benefit our students, for like be able to provide meals, and then, that structure in a safe setting. I mean, that's a house divided. That's like, husband and wife, with different opinions, working in different roles of the school. There's just so much out there, and it's so it's hard where you're seeing other states doing things, different levels. But we're going to stay positive. We're going to keep going on. But as we end, we gotta. I was just thinking of, like, those moments as parents and friends. Tell the story about Ryan, where he just popped up the other day about a song.
Oh my
Remember?
God. Wait,
Like
are you talking about when he was searching for the, like, you
yeah,
wanted me
like
to play this song?
he just like popped out of nowhere. You just got, as parents, you got to remember all these like funny moments that like kind of happen. And me and you, we had our staff meeting. We were working on a project, and then Ryan just like pops up and he's like, "Play this song," and we're like,
But I think it's because I was talking about how I play songs as my students come in, and
which I love.
So that's been something I've been doing.
And you greet the students one by
I
one
greet
as they
the
come to your
students one by,
Zooms.
which takes time, but it's so worth it. It is so worth it to individually say their name, just like I would, at school. And then now I play
As they're
music.
walking in the door,
and it's been
they're walking in your Zoom door.
Yeah, they're walking in my Zoom door, and I have a song playing each time, and they know that now. And so that's been a really good vibe. And then they've been requesting songs, and then it's opened up good conversation about like what a clean version is and how it can still be super inappropriate for school. So it's been good.
Building culture.
Yeah, we're
building culture.
We're building culture. I've learned a lot of new songs.
Never change, my friend.
Yeah. So anyhow, so we were talking about music, and Ryan said, play my song, as if like I'm like his go-to DJ, and I should
was
know.
flustered. I just like shouted something
yeah,
out,
you
and
did.
he's like,
It was like a Bruno Mars song or something.
he's like,
that.
no.
He was indignant with you, and then it was like play that Imagine Dragons, because I said Imagine Dragons based on something he said. And he was like, it's that one. And so I'm playing, and he's getting angrier and angrier. It's not that one. And then what did he say? He goes,
like,
it starts out with humming, and it's like a soft humming, and then it builds up, and then it gets intense. And then I hit the next one, and his whole face lights up. He's like, this is the one. And then you and I listen to the song. Starts with humming, it starts building up, and it gets super intense, and he was so delighted. It was like the coolest thing. But it's just so funny. Like, first of all, you said, I didn't even know he pays attention to stuff like that. Like, as a kid, like, how does he even know what intense feels like in a music, in a song? And you were just, oh, so cool.
I was flustered.
You were so flustered, and you just threw me under the bus. You're like, yeah, find a song, Christy.
He was so angry, and he's so adamant about this like one song. And then he like dances to it, but he wouldn't do his dance. But
so
you want to
amazing.
find those positive moments that you're never going to get back through this experience, and celebrate those moments and grow. And it's you want to be able to laugh at yourself and laugh with your friends and your family, and pick people up. But it's stay off the social media, I guess.
Or be part of the positive.
Yeah.
It's okay to be on it, but be part of I think this is the thing, and it's the same thing we would teach our kids. And I'm big on digital citizenship, and so are you. At the beginning.
And what's
of
your
the
term for esports? I always forget it.
Responsible
gaming.
And I would say the same applies. And I think it's just that right now, because people are tense, and because there's a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty and stress, I think really just thinking before you post something. Is it really necessary? It may be how you feel, but is it necessary? Because as you always say, you never know what people are going through behind the scenes. And we just need more kindness and more patience for each other. And I think that if we do that, it's going to help everybody cross this finish line in a much healthier, happier state of mind. And that's the goal. And so I think it's okay to have people that you vent to, but just understand that there's people on the other side of that are receiving some of these messages, and it hurts. And I just don't know if it's necessary.
And it adds fuel to the fire.
And, so maybe if we all just have the common mentality that we're going to be part of the positive and the part of the solution, and we're just going to choose that to be our mentality, then it kind of shifts the course of how things are going. And then just think, like, if everybody's really on the same team, I think we could really make it an amazing year.
#truth. As we always say, people, if you can be anything in the world, be kind. Now, if you loved hearing stories about Mrs. Schofield playing songs as her kids come into our classroom, creating that classroom culture via Zoom. Hearing the story about Ryan, want to hear his favorite Imagine Dragons song. It starts out humming, and then it gets intense. Our views on social media, hit the subscribe button. Every Tuesday, the latest episode of The Nailed It Wall will be downloaded to your phone. If you just listen to this episode, we don't hate social media. We love social media.
love it.
We just want to bring back the positive vibes. So if you're on Twitter and you want some positive feed, make sure you follow me at Mr. Lane the STEM Guy.
And me at a positive proton.